welcome. I'm Karima Brown and you're watching Political Exchange, where we unpack Africa's political economy. Labour Federation Cosatu has been rent down the middle, with top leaders divided over the federation's relationship with the African National Congress and the South African Communist Party. And while debate has always been at the centre of tripartite alliance relations, some within the alliance have cautioned against policy and personality differences spilling over into ugly public spats. Joining me now to look at the issues driving these divisions is Cosatu's president, Stumo Dlamini. Mr. Dlamini, thank you very much for coming onto Political Exchange. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Now, of course, we understand that Cosatu has an internal process to deal with some of the questions that have arisen as a consequence of a range of meetings that has been held at the very highest level, presidents, secretaries, that relates particularly to the conduct of the General Secretary, or rather the Secretary General of Cosatu, Mr. Zwelinzima Vavi. But before I come to that, I want to start with the very latest news, which is of course the fact that the African National Congress and Cosatu's office bearers had a bilateral meeting over the weekend. Tell us firstly why that meeting was held and what was discussed in that meeting.
Well, Karima, thank you very much. It would be a normal thing for the ANC leadership as the leader of the alliance when the needs, or it sees the need arising for it to engage with the alliance partners, Cosatu in this particular instance. And indeed it is true that when they would have been worried or concerned about what was appearing publicly, whether the federation is indeed in a crisis, is it on the verge of a split, is it in a dire straits, and as a partner, they have a responsibility to want to know closer from the leadership what is it that is happening, what is it that they can do. And indeed that meeting which happened the last Friday is a meeting in that spirit. Unfortunately, it's not a discussion that is up for public consumption. Safe to say that the leadership of the federation, meaning the Central Executive Committee, did support the ANC's initiative to engage with the leadership of the federation on the issues where the ANC saw it fit.
Mm-hmm. Now, the ANC Secretary General, Mr. Gwede Mantashe, has been very candid about the fact that he's been engaging several unions one-on-one. Rather, the ANC has been on a series of questions, whether it is the instability in the mining sector and, of course, the establishment of AMCU and the resultant impact that that has had on the National Union of Mine Workers, and obviously also on some of the divisions within Cosatu. Now, you've said that the content of that meeting is not up for discussion, but can you indicate, Mr. Dlamini, if the ANC has expressed concern to you about the perceived divisions and the fact that there is a very real possibility of a split in the federation if Cosatu proceeds with the probe into Mr. Zwelinzima Vavi?
Look, the ANC has even publicly expressed its genuine concern about the state of the federation as they see it, or as it is perceived at a public level. And Cosatu has indeed welcomed that, and that it is the duty of any alliance partner in this alliance, when they are concerned, they should talk to the partner closer to hear what is happening.
So you don't see it as interference?
No, not at all. It can't be an interference when it is out of a concern whether the organization is falling apart or not, and they wanting to come in and say, how can we help? So we have welcomed that. And indeed, that would have informed the ANC's consent. You would note that there was an ANC NEC meeting which received a report about the state of the trade union movement in South Africa, but in particular the state of Cosatu as presented by the ANC SG at the NEC meeting of the ANC. And a decision was then taken that let there be discussions between the ANC and Cosatu to see how we can help them. So that is what is happening.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's park the issue around the meeting with the ANC and what came out of it and focus on the internal divisions in Cosatu. For a very long time, there were media reports that that Mr. Zwelinzima Vavi is the subject of a probe stroke investigation into alleged irregularities that centers around political issues, administrative issues, and also financial issues relating specifically to the sale of Cosatu's old offices and the acquisition of the new building. And the very last Central Executive Committee meeting, after which you held a press conference, confirmed a special resolution that was taken to take this matter forward. Can you, for the record, Mr. Dlamini, state whether there is in fact a probe into Mr. Zwelinzima Vavi?
Look, we've been clarifying this point to everyone at the public level. Firstly, to say that we have an internal process that is facilitated by the agreed to people, Charles Newpen, Petrus Mashishi, and the firm of auditors, Sizwe and Saluba Gobodo, for them to help the debate in a range of the 4 areas that you just have outlined now, political, ideological, organizational, administratively, which also encompasses financially. Then the debate will be on the word that we are using. But we hold a stance that say we are conducting this discussion internally. We are at the moment not focused on individuals, we're rather focusing on the issues, which is what the process is going to be dealing with. And it would suffice, as we would note, that there is amongst the panel firm of accountants, the Sizwe Gobodo and Saluba firm, which must focus on issues where the need arises. That is what we have put even in our resolution that we have pronounced publicly.
Now, in terms of the framework, the time framework of that resolution, people are supposed to have submitted submissions relating to these 4 areas. Can you confirm for me who has in fact made submissions up to date and where that process is now at?
Look, I can't confirm that because that process and the submissions are made to the panel that I've just outlined. As to who has done that, rather say, have you, the president of Cosatu, made your own submission?
Well, could you then say to me?
I'm going to be setting a date with this facilitator. It's my date for making a submission. That
so you are in fact going to be making a submission?
I'm going to be making a submission on the process myself. And I know that the GS is making a submission on the process. As to who amongst the affiliates have made or is going to make a submission, I'm not in authority to make that pronouncement because I wouldn't know.
Well, many people have argued that the divisions have nothing to do with policy or ideology, that it is in fact all about a relationship breakdown between yourself and Mr. Vavi, and that you serve on the NEC of the ANC, you serve on the Central Committee of the SACP, 2 positions for which Mr. Vavi didn't make himself available, and that he is seen as the person that is more independent-minded, that is more critical of the African National Congress. What do you say to the charge, Mr. Dlamini, that you are the Zuma loyalist in the NOBs of Cosatu?
I would want to call those people just after this process is concluded and ask them to repeat the same allegation or accusation. I doubt whether they will still be confident to repeat the same as you are stating, because I know Zweli also has expressed himself, not on a single moment have we stood up to confirm that accusation, because it is not true and it is not what is being discussed in the internal process. It is what people perceived, or actually it is when people want to get to be malicious about the situation. The fact that I serve in the ANC's NEC and the party's central committee whilst I'm president of the federation is understood within Cosatu, is a product of thorough engagement and positions of the federation.
But let me put it to you, Mr. Dlamini, that your political commission in 2012 decided on the list of Cosatu leaders that must be making themselves available for
Yes.
the NEC elections. They decided that Mr. Zwelinzima Vavi also make himself available. But Mr. Vavi chose to publicly state that he's not going to make himself available. How is it that a collective of Cosatu takes a decision and Mr. Vavi has the right to disobey that and speak publicly about the fact that he's not going to serve in the NEC when that was a decision that was binding on all of you?
I think that's a side issue. We'd rather focus on the process itself. You had a discussion within the federation and names were identified and a process of engaging the branches of the ANC ensued. That process went up to the Mangaung conference. That is where the General Secretary of Cosatu declined nomination at the Congress of the
But was
ANC.
it in line with the decision of the Political Commission of Cosatu?
As I say, Karima, I would rather focus on the process, because I've said it before, even on this matter. What Dumo feels, what Zwelinzima Vavi feels, has no bearing on the process. It's immaterial. Whether he wished or he liked it or he didn't like it, it was not a matter of concern to all of us. What we were concerned and preoccupied with was the process itself. And indeed, I say officially that at the Congress of the ANC, Zwelinzima Vavi declined the nomination at the Congress.
Was that in line with Cosatu's decision?
To decline the nomination, it was in line with the process. To say, because you make that determination as you see the flow of the process, you see how many votes you are going to have, and some people may not want to expose themselves to a vote or do not want to place delegates into a painful process of voting for a person or not voting a process. Then you make it's within the process.
Okay, Mr. Dlamini.